Bison Media Zone on WDAY Extra.
Bison Media Zone, our debut for 2025. We've been busy with holidays and covering national championships and all that kind of good stuff.
There's a holiday?
Yeah, I know. It seems like it was eons ago. I'm Dom Izzo. We do this each and every Wednesday at 10:30 throughout the football and basketball seasons. I think Tim Polasek and the Bison staff can maybe breathe a minute sigh of relief, Jeff, with the extended portal window that was open after the national championship game. It officially closed yesterday with paperwork and how that all works. And I'll say it, I'm not surprised by really anything anymore. I'm stunned that NDSU was able to retain everybody after the championship game.
I guess I would call it remarkable, I think is a word that comes to mind. I would guess maybe you could credit Gray Zabel for all this, especially with retaining Bryce Lance here. I think the fact that Gray stayed and
Cam Miller stayed.
Yeah,
yep.
But Gray was the guy, I think,
right.
with the biggest
Yep.
offers. And Cole Wisniewski stayed too.
Yep.
I mean, until he got hurt and then ultimately left. But I think that there is an example that was set there. I think there's an example set by guys who went and didn't make it or just had okay careers at the FBS level. And we don't need to get into all those names, but I think we all know. We've been talking about them for the last 2-3 years. Be careful what you wish for. Now, Bryce would have got some. I mean, he would have had some big stuff, some big money, and probably had big money offers on the table that we'll probably never be able to, document or it's just not out there.
It's not going to be public, though.
Yes, that's what I'm trying to get at. But this guy coming back, I think, set the table for Enoch Sibamama.
See, I was going to go to that point.
Probably had places to go. I think Logan Cobb would have been marketable, certainly. Maybe some of the younger
Cody
linemen.
Heisman, a Keenan Wilson, those guys.
Trent Fraley, I know he transferred in here, but he had a great year being the Bison center and probably would have had another chance to hit the portal again. But again, I think the fact these guys are seeing, A, the players are staying, B, guys who left and then it really didn't work out for them. I think they're starting to get enough data points, Dom, where people who have left and not worked out, and how many players right now are in the portal with nothing? Hundreds.
Well,
hundreds.
Thousands, I would say.
I don't know.
With the amount of available players now out there, and there's only so many roster spots, I think you make a great point. If Bryce decides to go, I think a handful of guys probably decide to leave. I believe that.
But again, those guys would have had to have offers on the table, and it's a different deal. I know you were talking with Dave Richmond about the portal window, and you think a 15-day portal. Now the AFCA coaches voted this week to say a 10-day portal window.
Craig Bohl signed off on that. So
in January. Now I don't know how much credence that will have, and it still has to go through the oversight committee. It still has to, and
there's two committees it's got to get through.
And then there's lawsuits, NCAA, and all that has to go through. I'm on board with a 15-day window. I think you're right.
Yeah.
I like what your point on that. I think 15 days is enough to decide. I would think, and I would like to get rid of the spring window. But
I would agree. So Polasek was telling me when we were talking yesterday, because I would ask you, when's the sweet spot to have it? Because coaches don't want it in December because they're worried about high school recruiting and obviously getting ready for bowl games or playoff games. I personally, I would do it in the spring, but then that eliminates trying to get guys in for next football season and having them acclimated during spring football.
No, I'm on board with something around the end of December, January, because you got to remember, guys got to enroll in school too, and there's that element. And I think you got to give them time. I think you're just, if you're teams that are in the hunt for the playoff and the portal window's on, sorry, that's just the way it goes.
Name of the game.
Name of the game.
I would think so. Maybe what are we talking after Christmas to, like, if we're doing 15 days, so like December 26th to January 10th.
FBS level, there's one notable, the Penn State backup quarterback. There was one notable guy who left his team early while his team was still in the playoffs.
Yep. It'll happen more, though, as it goes forward. I really believe that because we've seen it more than half a dozen times with FCS teams, specifically the one here in North Fargo. To deal with it.
But it didn't happen this year, though. Montana State had nobody go in during the playoffs. NDSU had nobody go in during the playoffs.
That was playing. Wisniewski was the one that, The guys that went in were not playing, that were impact guys on that. Now, they have added a couple guys, specifically in the secondary. Jalen Peoples we'll talk about first from Texas Tech. He's going to have a couple years of eligibility. I mean, he was recruited by 30 separate schools before he decided to come to Lubbock. Started one game last year, He's got size, Jeff, and he was up here on a visit, and he's going to be able to provide, I think, some depth in a spot because corners got hurt. There's no doubt about it. I think the corners were okay this season, but definitely were banged up with injury.
We'll see. I mean, I'm with Matt Entz on this when you have all these stars that when you go to high stars are over when you get to college. So I'm not going to say this guy's going to come in and start right away. I think he's obviously got to earn his way, but his offer list was unbelievable.
Yeah, go through some of those.
Minnesota, Mississippi State, Missouri, Nebraska, Oklahoma State, Ole Miss, SMU, Central Florida,
Tennessee,
Kansas, Iowa, Kansas State, Illinois, Indiana. I mean, obviously a talent. I mean, you don't get those offers without talent, but now you got to put it together at the college level. And again, I'll go on board. I mean, we've been saying it forever. You got to prove it on the field, son. And so we'll see what happens when he gets there. At least he'll be here for spring football.
Yes.
And so that's a big deal. And here's the other thing about Jalen Peoples. I'm going to need a cue card of Jalen's on how to, and they're all spelled different.
Correct. There's 4. Now,
is there 4 now?
Because there's another one we'll talk about in a minute.
Okay.
Because the secondary, at least at the cornerback spot, Marcus Shepard is done eligibility-wise. So of the 3 corners that played last year, you have Jalen Duffy, who I thought was really good when he was in, but he got hurt.
Jailen.
Yep. You have Anthony Shadime Alfaro, who's back for another year.
Who's not named Jalen,
And then Jaquise Alexander, who was the starter 2 years ago, and saw him basically get passed over by, I would say, Shadime Alfaro and what Duffy did this past season.
But you can't go without depth like Jaquise.
No.
You know, and any guy who's a backup comes back with experience at the corner position, that's gold.
Yep. There's another Jalen. That's Jalen Archibald, who will be joining the team as well from the Air Force Prep Academy.
Jaylen.
And he hails from Frisco, Texas. We got another Frisco guy. He played at Frisco High School, the original for the Raccoons. That's the team in the blue jerseys there. Another 6'1", bigger guy that did not play at all. He'll have 4 years of eligibility. Good friends with Donovan Woolen. Joins Ryan Jones and Woolen as the other Frisco guys. And again, another depth piece at a spot where the Bison may need it.
He'll have a little longer road to go, more than Jalen Peoples, for a simple reason. He hasn't really played at the college level.
Correct.
He's at Air Force Prep. That's not Air Force Academy.
Air Force Academy.
So Air Force Prep is almost, it's like a JV team, right?
Correct.
To Air Force Academy. But again, I like his size. Played at high level at Texas football. And it's a new start here. He had a lot of FCS offers, a lot of high academic level offers. So
the Ivy was all over him.
Obviously, a very smart kid, and that can do help you a lot coming in here. And again, he'll be here, right?
He's here now.
He's here now. So
I talked with him. He almost prefers to play safety. Now that's an intriguing spot as well, knowing what the Bison are losing at the safety position. But bring back another Jalen and Jalen Crumby. You want to spell that one? Jaylin.
Yes. Head explosion.
So, but you have Crumby back there, Givens, and Jones as basically the 3 guys that they need some depth on the back end at the safety spot.
Oh, you need depth everywhere in football. I mean,
But certainly at that spot, I think they found out.
Ryan Jones really came on, though. Ryan Jones coming back as a solid starter. He's confident.
I think Givens is bound for stardom. I really believe that.
It's taken a while this year with Darius Givens. I thought the start of the year, especially at Colorado, he looked a little lost. And after coming back from last year, you're wondering, like, but then again, he was covering Travis Hunter and took a wrong angle on Travis Hunter, which most people did this year.
Jimmy Horn Jr., same thing. I mean, it didn't look
different
great.
levels. They don't see that speed in practice. So.
I thought Crumby, though, once he was healthy and was out there, for the most part, he was a difference maker as well.
Yeah, Tim Paulsek said in fall practice in August that he goes, I really like Crumby. He's like a missile.
Yeah, we saw that.
Yeah, and so I think, again, over the course of 16 games, you just get better. And let's not forget about the benefits of 16 games. You had Bison young guys practicing from the middle of November until January when most teams don't.
Are donezo.
Yep, and so that, again, that's you can't underscore the importance of a title run, of making the most out of practice in mid-November until January.
I will get to 2 things here before we got to go. Linebacker is a spot. I had Luke Wirtz on Hot Mic today. The Bison lose 4 linebackers here. Wirtz, Kubitz, Gully, Benson. They played a lot of football. That's a spot, as we start, and we'll get our previews for 25 here in the coming weeks and months, but that's a spot I'll keep an eye on for 25 and what they got
But
there.
if I'm the staff, I'm not concerned about that. Enoch Sibamana was the starter in the last part of the year, so he comes back.
Cobb is the other
Cobb
guy.
is a standout linebacker, all-conference type of guy. He comes back. And I think this is Nathaniel Staling's. It's Nathaniel Staling's job at middle linebacker. And then I think, Altapeter, too, is going to factor in there, too.
Just for people keeping record, Bison have added 5 transfers as well. Barry Penu, which is Barika's younger brother, is coming in from Rochester Community and Technical College. And then Mason Wilson is the defensive lineman from Minnesota Duluth. I think that's it for now. If you're looking for any others, I don't believe that's going to happen. NDSU, from what I've been told, will look for a defensive end potentially in the spring window. But that looks like that's going to be the amount of transfers they're adding for now.
And people ask about tight end, who's going to take Stuffel's place. Look out for the kid from Fargo South, Kessel.
Reese Kessel.
Look out for him.
Okay.
Yep.
He's got a great body size for it. That'd be something to watch.
Yeah, and he came here a little light. I'm not sure how much weight he's put on, but he's got the 6'5", 6'6" frame.
Boy, he was good. He was a really good high school player.
Keep an eye on that guy.
Okay, Colpack giving us a heads up. We'll break, we come back, we'll shift gears and talk some hoops. We're in the midst of Summit League season. Bison men have a big week. Bison women are going out on the road as well. We're back on the Bison Media Zone after this. Back here on the Bison Media Zone, that graphic is correct. Jeff Kolpak, the Bison men, coached by David Richmond, scored 110 points in regulation last week in a win against Oral Roberts. They follow that up with a defensive performance, so they allowed 50 against Denver as they swept on the road. That's after they were swept here at the Shack 2 weeks ago to get them back to 2-2 in league play.
Well, they can shoot the rock, and we've known that since about a month and a half now. And this guy here, Jackson Money, is one of the top players in the Summit League. We've known that. Yeah, you got to stop guys, but bottom line is they had 2 big road wins after 2 home losses. Big game against Kansas City tomorrow. Kansas City's a good team. They have good talent, the most returning talent certainly, and they kept their guys somehow from going to the portal. So a huge game tomorrow.
Kansas City was the preseason pick of number 1 in the league, precisely because of that. Jamar Brown is back. He's the only first-team Summit League guy to return after the portal departures. As you look, this is the up-to-date standings. St. Thomas scored 130 against USD. I mean, they've been amazing so far.
It's incredible.
And then I'll give a shout-out here to Chris Crutchfield in Omaha with Kyan Brown, assistant coach. I thought Omaha would finish last. Omaha is unbeaten, and they beat North Dakota State and South Dakota State already.
At home,
season.
Lance Waddles comes back to torch his old team. It's just Omaha's in a great recruiting
they should be
area.
Better. Correct.
Yes.
We've said this for a lot of sports on Omaha that they should be better. Men's basketball is one of them that they should be really good at. Maybe this is, who knows?
Maybe this is the team.
Without Frankie Fiddler, I would have lost money on it, considering how great he was.
Yeah, but who didn't lose guys other than Kansas City?
Well, St. Thomas is one, and that will lead us to such a really interesting dynamic if this continues. We get to Sioux Falls, and they're the number 1 seed, and they're ineligible to go to the NCAA tournament.
Now, there's a vote for the NCAA to coming up.
It's this week.
It's this week whether to reduce St. Thomas's reclassification period from 2 more years to just 1 more year.
This would be it.
This would be it, and eligible next year. I would think the way the NCAA has just been losing stuff left and right.
In court, you don't want to say no to that.
Yeah, I'm sure St. Thomas has. If that's denied, I would think St. Thomas would have a lawyer ready to roll. Say,
you think some of the payroll, the St. Thomas alums? I would think that's probably a good idea.
Yeah, the poor NCAA lawyers. They used to, back in the day, won everything.
Yeah, they batted 1,000.
They won everything. You get a job at the NCAA as a lawyer, I mean, you have to be a real moron not to go undefeated. And now things flip.
No,
now you get Perry Mason-like guys and lose.
The Bison women are 3-0 after a really nice win, Jeff, over Oral Roberts on Saturday at the Shack. They're going to Omaha and Kansas City. Avery Coonan is becoming that player that Jory Collins
I thought she could be.
Yeah.
I thought she could be, and I thought she would be, just on her athleticism. A triple jump champ in high school at that size. That's an athlete. And so I thought that was a great recruit. Now you got to hold on to her after this year, I guess. But what if they would add Elle Evans? I think they would.
Yep.
They would seriously would give South Dakota State a run this year, and that'd be tough with that now. But she's everything I thought she could be.
And that's added in with two young freshmen in Claire Stern and Marissa Frost have been really good. Bison have a nice mix. Now, South Dakota State is the juggernaut. We've talked about that when we were in Sioux Falls last year when they won the conference tournament and didn't lose a game, and all those players that were hurt and were not playing, they're all back. It's an awfully big challenge, but all you need is one game to try and knock them off.
I get back to Avery there. I mean, she's hitting a three. She's hitting a pull-up 15-footer. That's an addition to her game.
Correct.
We didn't see that last year.
Nope. It's top-heavy here, though. I think I would say, honestly, I would flip ORU in North Dakota. I would think if it's not those four in the top four, I would be stunned when we get to Sioux Falls. I really believe that.
Well, I think to me, it's pretty easy. South Dakota State is 1A. NDSU is 2. South Dakota with Grace Larkins is 2A.
Right, yep.
And then after that,
ORU is going to win games. I think Oral Roberts has got a talented team there. I'm not sure. UND is off to. They've got 2 wins, but they have to play South Dakota tonight. That game is in Grand Forks to try and stop the all-world Grace Larkins. Is going to be a big challenge there.
But boy, the bottom half of the Summit women's standings is just not good.
No, Denver, Kansas City, Omaha. On that lens too, with the Bison have, they have 2 games on the road against 2 teams that they have to beat if they want to stay in the top half of the league.
And should beat, and I would imagine will beat.
That's the thing, but in past it's been maybe split, not get a sweep. That's the tough thing of, are you a good team or a great team? It's going on the road and taking care of business like that.
I want to throw my age here a little bit, but is it any different than the old NCC days in women's basketball, especially in the 90s when it was NDSU, then UND really got good? I don't remember anybody else. Yeah, I really don't. Augie was okay for a while with Dave Kraus.
Right. I would say, frankly, until the last couple of years, the Bison women weren't part of this conversation either. They were in the other half of the league. You're right. It's top heavy, and it's going to stay that way, I think, for the rest of the ride. I don't see any of those bottom teams rising up and getting a challenge.
Not this year. No, not this year.
Reminder, we've got men's basketball for you tomorrow night. Kansas City, NDSU, 7 o'clock. Good one at the Shack. Students are back. Should be a good crowd. We'll have that for you tomorrow night between the Roos and the Bison. Each of those teams right in the middle of the Summit League standings as we get set for the second half of the season. Good to see you as always. We'll do this again next Wednesday. Our thanks to Jeff Kolpak for stopping by on this week's edition. We do it each and every Wednesday at 10:30 on WDAY Extra. For Jeff Kolpak, I'm Dom Izzo. That's this week's Bison Media Zone. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you back here next week, 10:30 on WDAY Extra.